$10,000. It isn't a fortune, it won't buy a house, and it won't let you retire. But save your first 10K in cash, and everything about your financial life starts to feel different. The anxiety turns down, decisions get calmer. You stop playing defense all the time and start thinking like a strategist. This number is not magic, it's mechanical. 10,000 is the point where security, momentum, and identity intersect. It's enough to absorb common shocks, enough to open doors, and enough to prove to yourself that your money habits work in real life, not just in a spreadsheet. This video is a deep dive into why everything changes once you have 10K. We'll unpack the psychology of runway, the math of compounding and avoided interest, the way options multiply when you're liquid, and a practical plan to get there faster than you think. We'll also cover where to keep it, how to defend it, and what to do next so 10K becomes 25K, then 50K, then a life that pays you even when you take a day off. The power of runway, why 10K feels like breathing room. Runway is the number of months you can live your current life if income stopped tomorrow. It's peace expressed as a math problem. If your essential expenses are $1,700 a month, $10,000 buys you nearly 6 months of room to maneuver. If your essentials are $2,500, it buys you about 4 months. That window changes your brain. Scarcity makes people short-term and reactive. A modest runway restores the part of you that can plan, negotiate, and say no. With runway, you can leave a toxic job without panic, sleep on big purchases, and choose work that fits the person you're becoming, not just the person who is exhausted. Without runway, every decision is made under duress. You accept worse terms, worse timing, and worse partners because you must. 10,000 doesn't eliminate risk, but it slows time down. Slower time produces better choices. The quiet math, how 10K flips the interest equation. Before 10K, surprises often land on credit cards. A flat tire, a medical bill, a broken phone. Small hits that become big because they collect interest. Every crisis becomes a tab that future you has to pay with interest. When you have 10K, crises become invoices. You pay, you move on, and you don't drag yesterday's problem into next month. There's another flip. Liquidity creates discounts. Cash can turn a no into, I can do 10% off if you pay today. You avoid late fees, overdrafts, payday traps, and convenience taxes that used to feel inevitable. Those little edges don't make headlines, but they compound. 10,000 quietly earns in ways that don't show up on a brokerage statement. It lets you refuse expensive money. Identity shift from surviving to stewarding. Saving 10K rewrites your story about who you are with money. You are no longer the person who can't save. You're the person who built a cushion against a world that doesn't care about your plans. That identity upgrade matters. People act in line with who they believe they are. When your identity becomes steward, builder, owner, your daily choices change automatically. You stop performing wealth and start accumulating it. You stop buying the t-shirt that says the thing and start building a life that does the thing. The options dividend, what 10K lets you do that 1K can't. Options are the real luxury. With 10K, options multiply. You can negotiate job offers without trembling because you can survive a few months of search. You can take a calculated risk on a certification that meaningfully raises your income. You can buy a used car in cash at a fair price instead of financing panic on a bad week. You can move apartments on your timeline instead of when a landlord forces your hand. You can invest when markets are on sale instead of watching from the sidewalk. This isn't theory. It's the difference between reacting and designing. 10K buys design time. Where to keep it? Buckets, not a pile. Not all 10K serves the same purpose. Think in buckets. The first bucket is your emergency fund, money that sits in high-yield savings and does one job: absorb shocks. It should be boring, liquid, and separate from your everyday checking. The second bucket, once your emergency fund hits a level that makes you sleep, is your opportunity fund. That money still lives in cash or near cash, but it exists to say yes when a high ROI, low-risk opportunity appears. A discounted course you know you'll complete and monetize, a used car deal you've been waiting for, a deposit to secure a better apartment that drops your monthly burn. Don't blur the buckets. Emergencies are about defense, opportunities are about offense. Both require liquidity and both thrive on rules. Why not invest all of it? The defense first argument. Someone will tell you that holding cash is a waste. They're thinking in spreadsheets, not in human behavior. The goal of the first 10K is not to maximize yield, it's to minimize fragility. If the only way to pay for an emergency is to sell investments at a bad time or to swipe a card at 19% interest, your financial system is brittle. Defense first. When your emergency bucket is set, then you push more aggressively into investments. This sequencing keeps you in the game long enough to win. The 10,000 effect. The 10K effect on income, courage to make better moves. People with no cushion cling to jobs they've outgrown because fear pays the rent. People with a cushion can aim higher. When you're not desperate, you interview differently, negotiate differently, and accept different kinds of risk. You can pass on the lowball offer. You can propose a project that proves your value. You can take a short, unpaid period to reskill. 10K doesn't guarantee a raise, but it funds the behavior that makes raises likely. A tale of 2 years, with and without 10K. Year 1 without a cushion. A dental bill goes on a card. Rent increases, so you take a high-fee moving loan. The car needs brakes, and the shop's 6 months interest-free turns into 29% when a payment gets lost in your spam folder. You're tired, you spend to soothe, and the balances creep. The year ends with the same income but less freedom. Year 1 with a 10K cushion. The dental bill is annoying, not life-altering. You pay, then set up a small automatic top-up to refill the fund. The rent increase triggers a search on your timeline. You move mid-week for less, pay the deposit in cash, and your monthly burn drops. The brake job gets paid, and you negotiate a small discount for same-day payment. Your fund dips to $6,800 and then rebuilds to $10,500 by year's end because your system is designed to refill the moat. The year ends with more control than it began. How to get there faster. A 90-day blueprint. There isn't one road to 10K, but there is a cadence that works. First, measure. For 30 days, track every euro or dollar without judgment. You're not looking for perfection, you're looking for leaks. Notice the auto pays you forgot, the tiny treats that aren't tiny, and the delivery fees that add up to a weekend away. Second, create a temporary sprint. For 90 days, freeze lifestyle upgrades and choose 3 big levers: housing, transport, and food. Renegotiate or right-size housing at renewal, drive what you own for longer and maintain it, and move to a simple weekday meal system to cut noise and cost. Third, monetize the attic. List the unused bike, the duplicate tech, the someday hobby gear. Convert clutter into cash and momentum. Fourth, add an income accelerator. Pick one path you can tolerate for a quarter: overtime, a weekend project at your current job, a simple freelance offer using a skill you already have, and aim to bank every cent of the extra into your 10K fund. Finally, automate everything. On payday, money should split by rule. A chunk to the 10K fund, minimums on any debts, essentials, and a small joy line so your life doesn't feel like punishment. You are not trying to white-knuckle your way to 10K. You are trying to design a slope and slide down it. Defending the line. Never go below your floor. Once you hit 10K, draw a line. That is your floor. You only cross it for true emergencies. A sale on a TV is not an emergency. A last-minute trip because of FOMO is not an emergency. A job loss, a medical bill, a necessary car repair, those qualify. When you do dip, your primary job is to refill. Treat it like you would treat oxygen on a plane. Put your own mask back on before you help anyone else. The discipline of defending a floor is how you stop starting over every year. The behavioral edge. Why 10K makes budgets easier. Budgets fail when they rely on willpower. They succeed when they rely on design. Having 10K doesn't make you a different person, but it changes your default environment. Late fees vanish, which means fewer demoralizing what's the point moments. You stop bouncing between panic and splurge because the emotional swings get smaller. When the money system feels kinder, you stick with it. Consistency is the richest feature any plan can have. What comes after 10K? The ladder of liquidity and ownership. The 10K milestone is a beginning, not a peak. The next phase is to widen the gap and stack assets. Keep the emergency bucket intact.
push excess cash into simple, broad investments on a schedule you do not break. If you love real estate, study underwriting until you can look at a small rental and know whether it will pay its own bills. If you love digital leverage, build a small product that can sell while you sleep. The sequence matters. Defense first, then offense. Liquidity first. Ownership. Calm first, then compounding. Build your runway, defend your floor. And when you cross that 10K line, don't stop. Use the confidence it gives you to climb the next rungs until money becomes the quietest part of your life. A note if your expenses are high. Some seasons make 10K feel far. High rent, childcare, medical costs, real pressures. If that's you, shrink the milestone without shame. Make your first target $2,500, then $5,000. Each rung delivers a real benefit. Each rung still flips the interest equation a little more in your favor. What matters is the direction and the system, not the exact number on day one. Case study: the before and after of a 10K cushion. Before: Nadia earns well but lives on the edge. New car payment, frequent delivery, a big apartment because I'm in it all the time. Her card balances hover, not catastrophic but sticky. A surprise dental bill hits, she finances it and loses sleep. She's offered a role at another firm, but it would mean a 2-month gap. She says no out of fear. After: Nadia spends 1 quarter on a 10K sprint. She renegotiates her lease at renewal by offering flexibility on move-in dates, lets the car run for 3 more years, and home cooks during the week. She freelances 2 nights a week for a short season and sells the unused camera gear. In 5 months, the account crosses 10K. The next time an offer arrives, she says yes, takes the gap to study, and lands a package that pays for the short break many times over. Meanwhile, the dental bill is annoying but easy. Her life didn't magically become wealthy, it simply became hers. Saving your first 10K doesn't make you rich, it makes you ready. Ready to handle bad days without breaking, and ready to capture good days without borrowing. It turns you from a passenger to a pilot. Defense first, then offense. Liquidity first, ownership. Calm first, then compounding. Build your runway, defend your floor. And when you cross that 10K line, don't stop. Use the confidence it gives you to climb the next rungs until money becomes the quietest part of your life.